We played a game called Third Dimension. Let's call it a game board. And the game board has had rules and structures. Each one of the dimensions has rules and structures. These will sound very familiar. In the third dimension, one of the primary rules and structures of the game is linear time. Now, if you ask people, tell me what time is, it's, well, past, present, future, and then you die. That's it. Is there any other choice? Of course there's no other choice. But in fact, present time has 5 different configurations. And in that construct of linear time, there's one construction that is very damaging: the past. See, I mean, we all know that you can't change the past. That's it, you're stuck with it. That's not true. Now, one of the things about the game of the third dimension, when the mom, dad, teacher, minister said, this is how it is, you began to disconnect yourself from how it is.
Jim Self, welcome on Just Tap In. What are you most excited about right now in your life?
Oh, Emilio, there's lots to be excited about, but I am excited. I just got off my bike a little while ago. So I ride long distance, like 40-mile rides is my average ride. My goal of the year was 2,400 kilometers, and this morning hit that number. So very
Oh,
exciting.
wow.
And it's nice, and I live in the Pacific Northwest of the United States, and all the trees are turning color. And when you just kind of get into that zone and you ride through these old growth forests, doesn't get any better. So, and this shift of consciousness that we're going to talk about is my passion and my excitement, because it just is unfolding right now. So,
And you were bringing up, growing up and being right now in the Pacific Northwest, you're surrounded by nature. I could see behind you, you have a picture of the forests. I wanted to begin with asking you what information about our true nature is beginning to be revealed for humanity, and what we're beginning to remember about our true nature.
right now there's a transition. And the transition has been talked about for eons of time. It's happening. It's right now. It's not coming. You are in the midst of the experience. And this experience, as it's unfolding now, is really fascinating, because it's like a dawning of a day where the sun hasn't quite come over the top of the mountain, but minute by minute, it's getting lighter. And as it's getting lighter, the shadows are disappearing. The monster that was just over there, I know it's over there under the bed. All of a sudden, it was just an old towel that's been laying there. And so each one of us are beginning to see our own truths. And that is going to be interesting, because on one hand, there's more light coming in, and it's loosening up kind of that darkness, or that I'm not okay, I don't deserve, nobody likes me aspect of each one of us that we live through. And it's opening that all up. So the good news is you're beginning to have access to yourself in ways that are going to be remarkably surprising, easy, smooth, comfortable. You're going to surprise yourself how you step out of the I'm not okay. But at the same time, that loosening up is loosening up where you have buried into the backpack, I'm not okay. Nobody likes me. I didn't do it right. I'm guilty. I hold blame. I hold victim. All of that is now coming up to the surface to be released. And the interesting part of it is it's coming up with ease, except we don't understand ease very well. We've been holding back for so long in terms of expressing ourselves and our own kind of truth and alignment. And so we are getting confused, and this is going to go on for some period of time, because as the I'm not okay, I did it wrong, I was not nice to somebody once and I'm guilty, all of those things that we each have kind of buried, it's leaving. But what it does is it comes up as a memory. And as it comes up as a memory, it's really saying, I'm leaving. But what we're inclined to do is grab a hold of it and say, why are you here? And that's the worst question you could possibly ask, because it will explain to you why you're here. Don't you remember when you did such and such? And then we start engaging with it. And the more we engage with it, the more it explains what it is. And so one of the key things that we really taught for a long time in Mastering Alchemy is it's leaving. Take a breath, let it go. Walk around the house, change your focus. And right now, because of the light that's coming in, you don't remember why you just walked into the kitchen a minute ago to get rid of what you just let go of. It's not there. And the other part of it where people get stuck quite often is they hold on to it. They believe they have to hold on to it, a memory. And we'll talk about memory in a moment. But what happens is this I'm not okay leaves a great amount of that whole structure of that memory and that perception of what I did and what I didn't do. And I was wrong, I was bad. The entire memory leaves. And it's not like you're losing your memory, but it was not yours in the first place. It's as if you stepped into a circumstance, a whole circumstance happened all around you, and then you blame yourself, and you're just a bypasser through the circumstance. And when that leaves, the memory leaves, and all of a sudden you begin to get back to the love that you are. And that's what's really beginning to rise up. It's not that you're finding something new, it's you're finding something that's old. And that oldness is that love that is your natural state of being.
Hmm. And you were talking about the ease and the flow that will begin to emerge in this new state of consciousness. I feel like there we're also alluding to the feminine energy. You said that spirituality is mechanical, where we have the masculine and the feminine polarities. Now I feel like the feminine is reemergence and reemerging. We just did a meditation that brought in a couple feminine ascended masters like Isis, Hathor, Mary Magdalene into the space. So I would love to go deeper, alluding to that reemergence of that energy of the feminine and why that has been so hidden in the past and what is happening now going toward the future.
Well, so let's set this in motion. We're not looking for blame or pointing fingers at anything. But one of the things that's happened is in that kind of historical movement, there's always swings, there's cycles, there's vibrational frequencies that come into play. And in those cycles, there's always a night and a day, a spring and a fall and a winter. So there's these cycles that we play in. And the cycle is really not good or bad. That's one of our third dimensional constructs that we play in. And we'll talk a lot about that in a minute. And we've created these constructs that basically frame our reference points for what is true and what is not true and what's I'm all about. And we've gotten a lot into them and us in those constructs. And in the them and us, one of the things that came about in the third dimensional game board is power over. And that power over began to get more rigid and more precise and more disciplined. And so masculine energy began to demonstrate as, let's call it straight lines and angles. There's no fluidness in those. Whereas the feminine energy is always flows and swirls and motion and ease. And that flow got pushed out for rigid structure. And then that power over began to be particularly in the churches. And as back the last 2,000 years is kind of our reference point in numbers of ways. It goes back really a lot further. But that religious structure started to be such where it was about power over. And then you got things like in the Catholic Church in 505 BC, the Pope threw out half of the books that the Essenes brought forth. And with those half of the books that were thrown out was the feminine side of the Essenes. And all of the information that Isis, Hathor brought forth so elegantly did not fit the masculine structure. It was too airy-fairy. It was too much flow. There was no rigid structure. And so the power over in the cycle became masculine. And everything became Father God. And that masculine has played such a dominant role. All of the archangelics are named masculine. It's like, where did that come from? They're not masculine at all. They're masculine and feminine, and it's always a flow. But the role that Hathor, Isis, Mary Magdalene, Mother Mary played is astonishing. And it's all coming back into the mix. And you look at the labeling of Mary Magdalene and the minimizing of Mary Magdalene in relationship to Yeshua. Mary Magdalene was the daughter of a king. Mary Magdalene navigated the oceans. Mary Magdalene was a force to be reckoned with. And Mary Magdalene brought Jesus into spaces where Jesus became, or Yeshua became Yeshua. And so when you start to be able to look at what's on the table that has been buried, that feminine energy is really very much coming up inside each one of us now to create flexibility, fluidity, mobility in order to begin to be who we are in real terms.
And as we're bringing these feminine ascended masters into the space because we're talking about them, I was deeply feeling a tingling up my spine. And, going back to the times of ancient Chem or modern day Egypt, these figures were participating and initiated into mystery schools as well, where they were learning about the purest forms of alchemy, not just turning lead into gold, but there was something else about alchemy that they were learning about. What insights have you gained around that?
So it gets to be very interesting because alchemy is actually all about the electron of the atom. And so when you begin to play in consciousness at the level we're starting to begin to be aware, and when you begin to look at Hathor and Isis and literally the Marys, their whole consciousness was around thought and feelings, emotions. So let me begin to set part of this conversation we're going to have up. Thoughts are electrical. Emotions, feelings, sensations are magnetic. And so when you begin to start to look at the essence of who you are as consciousness in light, or let me say physicalness is a particle. Consciousness is light as a wavelength, but when it drops into physical, it turns into a particle, turns into physical. That first particle is the electron. And it's the electron that creates the atoms, creates the molecules, creates the cells. And so when you begin to get into the electromagnetic fields of vibration and frequency, consciousness rides on light. Think about all the fiber optic cables that now convey communication back and forth. It's just a piece of plastic, effectively, that carries frequencies, hundreds of thousands of telephone calls on a simple little piece of plastic. So it's all vibrations and frequencies structured into individual representations. You're an individual representation. I am also. So when you go back and you begin to look at what Hathor has to say, where that's available to be found, and it's becoming more in the meditative state to connect with a Hathor or a Mary Magdalene and say, how does this work? All of a sudden that begins to be an interest in whether you hear the voice in your head. It's like, oh, it's almost like, that's interesting. This awareness kind of comes into your presence, and then it turns into a thought, and then it turns into an idea, and then it turns into a concept, and then it turns into you. And that's the process that we're beginning to understand. We're coming back into the awareness right now.
And Jim, at what moment did you recognize that you are not in this world, but of this world?
Day one. but see, it's like so many, you don't fit into that third dimensional game board. And the game board that's constructed by mom, dad, teacher, minister. And this is how we do this, and we don't do this, and we talk to these, and we don't talk to those, and this is correct, and this isn't correct, and you eat this, you don't eat that. And the little kid says, okay. And at that moment, most of that brightness in that 1-year-old's eyes that we all love to look at, by the time she gets to 2 and 3, that brightness isn't there anymore. Because I've started to engage with what I'm told the world is all about. And so in my reality, I didn't give up that space. Now, why? I don't know, but that I came in and kept it. And it got me in a lot of trouble because all of those psychic spiritual abilities were on, and my clairvoyance has always been on, clairaudience, clairsentience, telepathy, that engagement with the archangelics and others, always been on. And it's both been enlightening and very troubling. And I say that because there's many people that are listening that are having those abilities turning on more and more right now, and they don't know what to do with them. And they don't know how to manage them. And it's not that it's a problem. It's contrary to the game board of the third dimension that I have been told this is how life works. And so that third dimensional reality is starting to crack, break up. It doesn't take a lot to just step back and look at the world today and go, something's not right. And to a great extent, my generation, which started out making something magnificent in real terms, has held on and held on and held on and kicked the can down the road and hasn't taken care of adjusting to the changing of the dawning of the day. And so now we're finding ourselves painted into a corner in ways that could have been different, but it's part of the game that we've been playing. And it's all now cracking, breaking. And that's going to be challenging for some. But those of you who have those abilities that are turning on, take a breath, step back, begin to kind of find what present and quiet and aware is, and allow yourself to begin to have these experiences and not try to fit into the world that's saying you've got to fit in. And that's the piece that's really the transition right now.
And speaking into the waves of generations that have been coming in, since the 1940s, let's say, starting with, the baby boomers, the X generation, millennials, now my generation, Gen Z. How do you relate these waves of generations to the carrying out of what you call the Dream of Atlantis?
Yeah. So the Atlantis, Lemuria, all very real places. They existed simultaneously, overlapping. One pretty much in the Pacific Ocean area, what we'd call Pacific Ocean today. Atlantis pretty much all through the Atlantic areas. And there was in Atlantis a dream of a society, of a freedom, of well-being, of beauty and grace and dignity and respect and those type of words, and curiosity without punishment, and so much more. And so there was a group that was called the Priests group. And they weren't priests as we understand priests today. They were the alchemists. They were the excited people. They were the ones that go, they were the creators. They were the scientists. And they played in a game that was very much informed by the Arcturians. Another conversation. And it was really pretty spectacular. And then the day began to shift, and then let's call it the night began to creep in. And it's just like what you're watching today in the world, where we've had democracies, quote unquote, and now you're watching more of an authoritative state kind of come onto the table. And all that is, no, we need more rules and we need more structure, and we have to get rid of those because they don't conform. That's not new. That's been there forever. And so in the Atlantean period, that began to take hold and began to take hold. And in that space, they had access to genetics, like we're beginning to remember about how to basically work with genetics. And a lot of that information was tremendous. It's just like the artificial intelligence that's coming into the forefront right now. In that level of genetics, major things happened. And again, the Arcturians and others bringing levels of consciousness into an expanded consciousness. And that's what it was always about. That's what it's always about, is consciousness wants to know itself. It wants to create. You're a creator being here to create. And so that consciousness was constantly expanding. And at that particular time, just like this particular time, there were a lot of beings that, let's call it, got nervous. I don't like this. I don't conform. This doesn't make sense. I'm scared. And they began to huddle together, and then they began to take power. And kind of that feminine side again, that side that flows and is gracious and kind, and kind of got pushed to the side. And eventually that power began to do some really pretty ugly things that we're still the results of, without going into that right now. That process began to get so disruptive, it was very abusive to the earth and to the elementals. And in a way, in simple terms, when the alignments of the other planets and the gravitational waves, again, bigger part of the story, began to pull on the earth, and the sun began to get quieter, just like it is right now. It's getting quieter. It's supposed to do that, but it's getting quieter, and consequently, all of the planets are directly affected by the magnetism getting quieter. So in the Atlantean particular time, that power over really created, with its ability to use technology and its ability to use genetics, a tremendous wobble on the earth plane. And they were very abusive to the elementals. And the elementals, at one point, when the crack in the earth happened, the Atlantic rift, basically, where you just look at that crack, the elementals, in a way, stepped aside. It's almost like they said, well, screw you. And all of this changed very much overnight, in a way. So, but there was a dream in Atlantis of that well-being. And in the cycle of things, there's an awful lot of baby boomers right now, and have dealt with this for now years and years. They're guilty. They believe they didn't do what they were supposed to do. And they did not bring the dream into completion. And they failed at their game. So many baby boomers, they're very passive. They're not active. They're not politicians. They're not corporate leaders. They're just people, and they're quiet. And they carry a guilt that is unfounded. There was no failure. It was part of the cycle. And in that part of the cycle, they were supposed to create the blueprint for what was to come now. And they were extremely successful at creating that blueprint. Now, it's interesting when I tell this story in conferences, every person in the room is crying. And so you can feel that energy as I'm talking. And on the planet, all over the planet, there's a tremendous guilt that's very buried in terms of allowing a civilization to kind of fall away and something else to come about. But the something else that's coming about now is what the blueprint was all about. And you, as a Gen Z, are the implementers of the blueprint. So the millennials first basically began to become conscious to the baby boomers, so let's say myself, in the 80s. And we started labeling it millennials and rainbow kids and all kinds of other names. And the millennials came in, and basically they were, to a great extent, a buffer zone to ease the baby boomers kind of out of where they have been going. That has been successful and painful in a lot of ways, how the millennials have kind of staged themselves in this game. And I can talk more about that if you want. And they're the ones that had just started the next flow into the new millennial, if you would, the new what's coming. But it's you, it's the Gen Zs that are not baby boomers. Please don't try to be baby boomers. And the millennials, you have references to them that are closer, but you're just coming into who you are. You're just beginning to have a glimpse of what you're all about. And over this next 5 to 10 years, 5 particularly, not 50, not 100, not 1,000, now this is happening. You all are turning on. And it doesn't matter how you get to this point of being turned on, but there's a level of where you hold joy and ease and beauty and grace and respect and laughter and curiosity in ways that is going to allow a world to come about different than the world that we're playing in today.
Is there anything else that can be said to sort of liberate the elder generations from that guilt that you were alluding to?
It's being done. It's very much being done. And see, in a way, a lot of that that individual and the baby boomers, that guilt that is misplaced. Their job was to simply hold the dream in place, the blueprint in place for you to arrive. See, and you are them and we are you. There's no, difference. Everybody just chose to come in at a different slice of the game. And so here we are. But to the baby boomers, and one of the tasks of Mastering Alchemy has always been, is to remove that guilt. And to a great extent, it's been very successfully. The vibration of choice to step out of guilt has been very much placed before baby boomers. Now, there's a lot of people that simply are not awake, but many of those baby boomers that were in the priesthood, if you would, and that scientists and researchers and just people that were happy and playing in alignment with the energy, they're the ones that have been hanging out at the edges. They're the ones that, in a lot of ways, they've failed at the third dimensional game. The third dimensional game would say, you're not productive, you didn't offer anything, you're not significant. They didn't come here to be significant. They came here to have their own personal experiences, which is what all of our task is to do. And they came here to hold that dream. And I watched the people in Mastering Alchemy, and 300, 400, 500 people that are in the been around for a long time. Their ability to start to find joy and ease and flow is magnificent. It's really rewarding watching them just simply say, I don't have any problems today. And things are showing up for me as they're just showing up. They're beginning to recognize more and more, and we can talk about this. You don't go to the world. You don't need to go to them, whatever them is, to get approval to be okay, to be successful, to do. It's really, as Yeshua said, it's all within you. And as you begin to hold your own alignment and recognize everything comes to you effortlessly, step off the game board, step into joy, well-being, ease. There's a buoyancy, a happiness, a curiosity, a freedom, a smile, a beauty. That's who you are. And that's the space that is beginning to be who you all are blossoming into today.
You've said that we are watching freedom begin to be imposed all over the planet. How do you see that will unfold when the energy or the frequency of freedom begins to trickle down throughout society and the systems that hold it?
Well, this is so we are in a transition. And so that word is really key. So anytime you have a transition, you are simply going from one place to another place. And quite often the journey is a little choppy. It's like, oh, I thought I was supposed to turn left there, but there's a detour sign. And so transition is choppy. Right now, the transition is really about interrupting power over, disrespect, casting one aside for the benefit of another. That's the biggest piece on the table. And so as this light comes into the game, it's beginning to be very disruptive. Remember what I said at the beginning. It's loosening everything up. And so that power over is in a place of fear right now, their own created fear. The fear is really about I'm losing power. My security is not there. My stability is not there. I may lose my job. What am I supposed to do? And there's a panic. And the higher up you go of the power over, you are getting more and more panic. The world monetary system is in panic. The world political system is in panic. The global warming is really not a big deal in a way. If you just take a step back, the Earth is just making some adjustments. It's going to happen for some time. It's not even something that is man-made. This is a cycle. We're in a cycle. You're going to have a very cold period for the next 20 years. Cold, like really cold. But wait, that doesn't make
Like
sense.
weather-wise, temperature-wise?
Weather-wise, yeah.
Why is that?
Well, so you look at the cycles of weather, the cycles of ice ages, the cycles of droughts, the cycles. It's very much all right there available to be seen. And how some of that works is, where is the alignment of the planets? Now, what I mean by that is, let's get bigger. So what happens is you have all of that galactic wave flowing, all these X-rays and cosmic rays and all of those vibrations and frequencies of light. And they come out of the galactic center. We'll keep it that simple. We okay there? Right?
Yeah.
And so it's like light. And all of a sudden you get Jupiter and Saturn and Neptune all lined up in a certain way that is right in front of that galactic flow. The sun begins to cool down a little bit. Now, is that a problem? No, it does it every, big cycles. And it's cooling down. And you can trace this back 1,400 years. About every 89 years, you get this cooling period. That's because Pluto and Saturn and all those planets line up in such a way. It's kind of like they block the light. And so it's not some massive surprise. It's not humans did this to each other. No, it's kind of a natural phenomena. But are we paying attention to it? We're starting to. Some are. So when you start to look at how all of this is unfolding, a lot of that a lot of these cycles are lining up one on top of the other. There's about 6 cycles that are big cycles. You're moving into the Aquarian age. You're moving into a slice that progression of the equinoxes is moving. You've got a 12,000 year cycle, which the last time it happened, you had a big shift in the waters up on the earth. So this is not all new. This is all pretty much right there. So how do you prepare for it and how do you play with it? The bigger piece, so all that's physical, but the piece that is really relating is the rigidity of that portion of the, let's call it the night and day cycle. The day is beginning to come back. The light's beginning to shine. The monster under the bed is just an old towel. The things that I thought were true, you're going to find an amazing ease where somebody's going to just say, oh no, didn't you understand that this was what was going on? And you've had this experience in your life where you go, oh, I didn't know that. And what was a truth just a moment ago is no longer a truth. And what was impossible just a moment ago is possible. Very much fourth dimension constructs. So you're watching all this come about. But for the Gen Zs, the ones that are listening to you here, and many are not, they're still waking up. But the ones that are listening, step back, just enjoy yourself in matter of speaking. It's just become more present, like right now, become a little quieter, look around, and you're going to realize choices that are going to become very available that are not even conceivable in the moment are just simply going to start to present themselves. It's really exciting.
Yeah, I'm excited. And to ask you about that, what is one thing that you believe that now we're seeing as an impossible potential become possible for us in the near future?
So in my how I'm kind of looking at things right now, we do a lot of labeling. Humans love labels. And in a way, one of the things we've learned to do is label things and then make them a truth. So a hammer is a hammer, and that's all it is. It's not a doorstop. It's not a paperweight. It's a hammer. It doesn't have room to be other things. And so we've created labels and we've created significant limitations. So in a way, we should start letting go of some of the labels. One of the labels that I found for myself is consciousness has said, in a way, stop calling me God. It's too limiting of a label. Now that's an interesting, it's like, what? Oh, wait. Now, for some hearing that in the first place, it's like, well, how sacrilegious, how, no. It's very liberating is the intention. Not demeaning, not disrespectful. It's bigger than the label. And consciousness has said, I'm now presenting intelligence, knowledge, and wisdom. And if you just allow, you're going to start to realize that you know things that you did not know a minute ago. You didn't read it in a book. It was just a knowingness. Now, one of the things about the game of the third dimension, when the mom, dad, teacher, minister said, this is how it is, you began to disconnect yourself from how it is. That natural state of flow and feminine and ease and laughter and joy. And you learned the word no real early on. We all did. And we began to push back in that early stage because that pushback is really that first level of all of a sudden a realization that, wait a minute, I'm losing some of my freedom. Okay. So as we begin to play at this space that we're now stepping into, a lot of that awareness is coming back. And it's just going to be in a state of ease and knowing. And so in a way, what you're doing is you're putting the wiring back together. And as that wire goes back together, it's an interesting thing. It's like I say something and you go, oh, wait a minute, I didn't get it. Well, wiring didn't stick. And then I say something, you go, oh, okay, that's really good. Oh, wait, say it again. Wiring didn't stick. Connected, didn't stick. And then the funniest part of it is you say, I don't know this, and you get an answer, and the wiring connects. And then you believe that you've always known that. You've never not known that, whatever that is, once that wiring goes back together. Does that make any sense? And
Yeah.
so what's happening right now is the wiring of who you are as a spiritual being, and wisdom and knowledge and intelligence is all starting to just, well, I've always known that. This is who I am. And this is who I've always been. See, we played a game called Third Dimension. Now let's call it a game. Let's call it a game board. And the game board has had rules and structures. Each one of the dimensions has rules and structures. And so the challenge has been for so many, watching baby boomers particularly, and now millennials and into Gen Zs, is we have labels on all kinds of things and we hold them fairly rigidly. And we play the game based on the rules and the structures. So these will sound very familiar. In the third dimension, one of the primary rules and structures of the game is linear time. Now, if you ask people, tell me what time is, it's, well, past, present, future, and then you die. That's it. Is there any other choice? What a stupid question. Of course, there's no other choice. But in fact, present time has 5 different configurations. Time is an application. It's not a fixed concept. It's a very flexible means of how you navigate your life, but not in third dimension. Third dimension is all about separation. Third dimension is all about duality, good, bad, right, wrong. Third dimension is conditional. There is nothing unconditional in third dimension. Third dimension is about reactionary present time, meaning, oh my God, this wasn't supposed to happen. You're in present time, you're right now, but you're in reaction. Those are part of the rules of the game. And so as long as you believe in duality, you believe in, well, that's bad, this is good. My mom said, no, we're not beating up moms. In that space, all of a sudden you are conditioned into a construction that says, I've got to look at my watch. And in that construct of linear time, there is one construction that is very damaging: the past. Past. See, I mean, we all know that you can't change the past. That's it. You're stuck with it. That's not true. That's simply not true. Now, let me give you a frame of reference to this. The past has 2 components. One component is, in my reality, yes, at 5 years old, I stole that candy bar. I did that. Fact. But at my age right now, do I have to carry all the blame, the guilt, the shame, the punishment, the getting hit for stealing the candy bar? No, I was a 5-year-old in the grocery store and I liked that candy bar. I had no sense of reality other than I liked the candy bar, and there it was. So at my age, the question is, do I need to feel all of that guilt or blame? So the second part of past is the emotion. If I say to you, how are you doing? And the person says, they say, oh, I'm really okay. I'm doing good. It's like, what? I'm doing good and I'm doing good don't quite match. And so the question is, well, what's going on? Well, my mother died. Oh, when did that happen? 20 years ago. Oh, really? Okay, well, I'm sorry to hear that. I heard you went to a party last night. How was that? Oh, it was great. I had so much fun. Wait a minute. What happened to sad? Where did sad just go? Am I making sense?
Yeah.
So what happens is 2 parts: the fact, I stole the candy bar, and the emotion, But emotions, and this is the important part, only are experienced in this present moment right now. So if you were to pause and step back and allow yourself the question where you hold guilt or blame or I'm not okay based on an issue, if you simply said, did the issue happen? Okay, it happened. Do I need to be carrying that emotion right now? Do I need to feel the emotion attached to that right now? And the answer is no, more often than not. And so if you could simply be right now and allow the event to be the event and choose not to hold the emotion because it really has no value to me 20, 30, 40 years later, and you take a breath, it goes away. It simply goes away. Now, in present time, are you guilty? Right this minute. Are you sad? Right this minute. And right this minute, no, we're just having a conversation. All of those emotions are available to be chosen. And that's the key word, chosen and or not. So when you step into this fourth dimensional space, first of all, fourth dimension does not have any physicalness to it. It is not physical. It is a thought realm. Whereas third dimension and fifth dimension, we basically erroneously call that physical. So physical is what you create. We've created physicalness, but the rules of the game don't have anything to do with physicalness. Physicalness is the staging, the backdrops, the props for your adventure, because this is your play. You are the lead actor in your play. Everybody else is sub-actors, lead actors in their play, but sub-actors in your play. And the prop, the earth, this chair you're sitting in, the window, the wall, the tree, those are all staging for you to have an experience. That's how it works. Now, is this sounding a little different than Mom, Dad, Teacher, Minister told you? I hope so. But see, now you get into that fourth dimension. Well, let's do this, jump over that a minute. Let's call it fifth dimension. And all we're going to call fifth dimension is well-being. Well-being. So what do I want in life, minus the car, the trophy wife, husband, etc.? What do I want? I want to be happy. I want to laugh. I want to co-create. I want to have fun. I want to eat great meals. I want to play. I want to feel joy. That's your natural state of being. But let's just call that fifth dimension for the moment. Okay. What happens in fifth dimension, there is no fear. There is no distrust. There is nothing safe about the fifth dimension because there's nothing unsafe about the fifth dimension. And so you just step into that. And this is where everything comes to you. Now, when you're in respect and dignity, you're not going to step on other people in the process. And you start to find that your happiness is their happiness and you play together. And in the time where it's like, I'm going to go home now, we're just going to step into another minute. We're going to play again tomorrow. And there is no time in that space. Everything is right now. Am I okay so far?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
let's go back to fourth dimension. No physicalness. There is no earth. There is no tree. There is no chair you're sitting on. If you were to close your eyes right now and get into a very comfortable space with yourself, the earth, the chair, the tree have nothing to do with you sitting in that nice, comfortable space. And so this is where I said earlier, thoughts are electrical, emotions are magnetic. Electricity contracts when it does not have access to love. And so when I'm not okay and I'm guilty and I'm in blame and I'm sad and nobody likes me, all I've done is in the third dimensional game, by choice, brought my attention to I'm not okay. And the moment I move into that thought pattern, I step out of love and the electricity contracts. And as it contracts, it starts to create erratic, non-coherent vibrations. Uncomfortableness. There's your emotion, your feeling. Well, let's call third dimension. Let's do it this way. People say, what is the difference between an emotion and a feeling? Emotions, this is not true, it's a reference point. Emotions have edges. Anger, jealousy, rage, resentment, edges. Joy, laughter, gratitude, appreciation, gratefulness, no edges. Feelings don't have edges. Emotions have edges. So without trying to define, is it a feeling or emotion, just ask yourself, is there an edge or is there a smile? It's that simple. So in that fourth dimensional space, there are a couple things that happen. One, you are only in present time. Right here, we are not thinking about lunch or dinner or going out for a bike ride, or we're just right now. And in right now, we could create joy or we could create anger. You can create. But in this space, present time, in the fourth dimension, fifth dimension, you have choice. Third dimension, reaction. So here, I could choose, if I said to you, dinner tonight, tapas or pizza, choice. And in order to make choice, I have to be in the moment. Maybe for just a little tiny moment, but it's like, I'll do the tapas. But in that moment, I had choice. Okay. The other thing is a strange word called paradox. And paradox simply means what was true a moment ago may not be true in this moment, and what was false a moment ago, which is hugely feminine and flexible because it allows you to move rather than, no, I was angry at you when you were 20 years old and I'm still angry at you at 40 years old. Straight lines, angles, past. No choice until you step into that fourth dimensional space. Does that make any sense?
Yes, yes.
And so this third dimensional game board, here's a different reference. The third dimension is really like a little bubble in the multidimensional reality of well-being, love, joy, peace, happy, all those wonderful feelings. It's a little bubble. It was a game. Now, some people call the game the fall of consciousness. One of the things about the Archangelics told me early on is you don't destroy creation. Once something is created, it's created. It can be uncreated, but you don't destroy creation. Energy goes back into energy. And so this whole space of this third dimensional game board is not about destroying it. And one of the pieces is another part of the story. The creator wished to know itself, as Uriel explained it to me once. And in doing that, kind of took a part of itself and created a gazillion creator gods of themselves, little g gods, and basically said, I wish to know myself. Go out and create. Gave them a blueprint, and they went and created. And they created all kinds of universes. But after a while, Uriel said, they kind of said, there's got to be more. And they petitioned the creator and said, there's got to be more. The creator gave them free will to go create on their own, gave them all the power of the creator, all of the light of the creator, and all of the creator's creative aspects were given to all of the creator gods. And everything was spectacular and massive creations. And creator gods created more creator gods, and they created more creator gods, and just like families today, But what happened is they kept saying more. And this is where the word density comes into the play. Physicalness is like a single grain of sand in the universes of sand. Physicalness. It's not how everything is. Okay? In the non-physical space, that's where creation exists for the most part. So in this physical space, they started to play, and they basically said, well, what happens if we add density? And so they created density, and every one of the densities, dimensions we'll call them for simple terms, had its own rules and structures of creation. Now, interrupt me if I'm not making sense, because this is the story of how it happened.
You're flowing.
Okay.
I'm right here with you.
All right. So they created more density, and just simply they created the 8th density, the 7th density, 6th density. That's not quite correct, but just for numbers purposes. They created the 5th density, let's call it 5th dimension. Then they created in the 4th dimension. Now, the 4th dimension is a thought realm. So let's deal with that. So when you have angry thoughts, you move love away, you create an erratic vibration, but it's a thought. What happened was that was new. There was never anything lesser than beauty and grace and dignity and laughter. And all of a sudden, erratic vibrations, emotions, anger, rage, resentment, jealousy, began to show up, mutations in the system. Nobody ever seen that before. And the creator gods created those because they got so excited about their ability to create that part of the understanding was first ray of creation is one with the creator, no separation. But what some of the creators did, they got so enamored, they created on their own without the will of the creator included. Was that bad? No, it was just something new to do. Well, it happened for quite a while, and it got attention after a while. And finally, the creator basically said to everybody, you are able to create as long as you wish to create, as long as you create in co-creation with the will of the creator. But if you don't use the will of the creator, you don't have access to that will of the creator. Well, that got a lot of attention, according to Uriel, and everybody went, oops, we better clean up our act. But some were so excited about their creations, they kind of worked on the edges of it. And what happened was when we went into that 4th dimensional thought realm, density, dimension, erratic vibrations began to be everywhere. And the more those erratic vibrations began to happen, the more they began to be consumed by their own erratic vibrations. Hence the story of evil and the bad fallen angels and the wars. There was no war. There was no bad angel. There is no devil. There is no evil. It's all human construction in the 3rd dimensional game board. And so what happened is that thought form dropped into physical density. And then Earth became the staging grounds for that new thought form. Am I making any sense?
Yeah, yeah.
Is it your fault? No, I'm talking to everybody. You did nothing wrong. So underlying that whole space that says, I'm not okay, there is these little elements of, was I one of those bad creator gods? And the answer is no, you were not. And what happened is, as I said a moment ago, you can't destroy creation. So what had to happen was this game board had to be played out. And here we are at the end of the game board. We are at the place where you are now beginning to remember yourself, know yourself, embellish yourself, enjoy yourself. See, that's the light that's coming into the game right now. And as that light comes into the game, you're beginning to remember who you are. Oh, it's an amazing game, how it's being played. But what's happening is, do you want to continue to play in doubt, guilt, blame, punishment, war, domination, imposition, one over another, competition, advantage? Choose. There's your choice. There's nobody telling you to choose. The choice is on the table. How does one feel? Do this. Which feels better, anger, rage, resentment, or happy, joy, laughter, beauty? Which one's a little heavier? Which one's a little lighter? So that thought realm is beginning to break down. Fourth dimension, the feminine energy where we started the conversation from is flowing back into the consciousness. The light is beginning to illuminate. And so, will you screw this up? Impossible. Impossible. What happens is you're beginning to see choices in the transition of how to step out of the game. And so now to the original question you asked, kind of in the next 5 to 10 years, we are in transition between 3 and 5. And as you begin to choose, if you choose, well-being, you're going to start to find that everything comes to you. But it's almost as if you pull it way back into 2 reference points. A room called 5D, well-being, laughter, joy, co-creation. A room over here, uncomfortable. Okay. In the moment, which room am I in? It's not a but. It's not a well. I'll get there. I want to be there. No. Where are you right now? In this moment, here or here. Now, there's no bad or good. We're stepping out of the duality. We're simply saying, where am I? Reference point. Now, if you can hear that and not get upset with it, just, I want to be over here. Take a breath, be over here. There's no guilt, there's no blame, there's no obligation. You're simply stepping off the game board. If you can bring it back to, it's like you don't need to know how to ground, be in the center of your head, know what the 8th chakra is, read from this Eye of Horus. No, none of that. You already know all that. Am I in the 5th game board or the 3rd game board? Breath, choose, smile. That's what this transition is. Is it going to simply be that simple for everybody? No. Is it going to be a comfortable transition? No. Is there going to be more potentially sporadic wars? Yes. Is there going to be more outrageous experiences to different human beings on the planet? Yes. Is that a good thing? No. Is it what everybody needs to have to do to get out of their own game? See, many of us have gotten sucked into being healers and givers, and it's better to give than to receive, and non-havers. Once the earth is okay, I'll take care of myself. Backwards. You have to be able to give to yourself, have for yourself, enjoy yourself. Because if you have nothing to give because you don't have, then you're simply staying in that 3rd dimensional game board in a story that you're telling yourself spinning. See, the reality, and this is where we're playing in a project, it's called Park Bench right now. And it's free. It's 3 Sundays a month, and it's over 5,000 people now that are sitting, building a new realm of consciousness. Is that hard? No. It's just simply, what do you want? How do you wish to feel? What vibration, the smooth one or the erratic one? Are you in 5D or are you in 3D? What would you like to give to other people? See, in that space, you are the creator, and you are the experience that's being created. You begin to have 100% selfishly for yourself. Selfish, an important word. 2 ends of the stick. Selfish, I'm going to step on you, use you, take advantage of you to get ahead. Nah, even that person doesn't like it, but they don't know how to get out of it. The other side is I'm going to step back, I'm going to enjoy, I'm going to give to myself, I'm going to have a nice vacation, I'm going to laugh. See, you are regenerating yourself, beginning to have for yourself. Now, the game is 100% giving to yourself and simultaneously 100% being in service to others simultaneously. You know the space where you walk out of the grocery store and somebody's got bags right behind you and you go, oh, well, wait a minute, let me hold the door. And they say, oh, thank you so much. And you smile and they smile. 100%, 100%. That's the fifth dimensional space. Every moment of the experience.
Yeah. I love the way that you've defined dimensions before, which you've said it's a state of consciousness, not an actual like physical new form, that has many aspects of choices, opportunities, and energetic constructions that allow you to create an experience. So as you use that example of leaving the grocery store, it's not like the grocery store completely changed and it's in another dimension. It's the state of consciousness that the person was in when they entered that grocery store. That's what shifted a lot of different things.
Yes.
Because they were making different choices to help someone out, to give a smile. So those different aspects are creating these new experiences.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Let me change something here. See if that's any better.
Yeah.
Light. I've got natural light coming in, so destroying everything. Yes. And so, but see, just if you just pause right there, take a breath. I'm talking to everybody. How would what you just said feel if that was your experience? You went into the store, you were happy, you held the door, you said, oh, nice to see you. They walked out. How does that feel? See, what I said at the beginning of the show is this moment right here. I said, let's create an environment where you step into a vibrational field of consciousness that allows you to live all the time. How does this feel right now? All we've done is just shifted the attention into another vibrational field, and we're having fun. I'm enjoying myself. That's your normal state of being. That's who you are as a being. We've chosen to simply listen to a new set of rules, have an experience, be real clear. You came here to have the experience you've had right up to this exact moment. You've been 100% successful. Now, let me see if I can put that into perspective. In a conversation with consciousness, and I said it earlier, consciousness said, calling consciousness God is too limiting. Now, I'm not being disrespectful. It's so much more. But in this space right here, one of the things consciousness said is, you don't understand what you're doing. You don't understand that before this moment, in consciousness, everything was beauty, well-being, etc., all absolutely wonderfully positive, and everybody had the objective of creating, adding to all of creation in the smoothness of the frequency of love. Frequencies, coherent harmonic resonance. Everything about the frequency is in a coherent flow. Love, light. Frequencies bump up against one another and they create vibrations. The vibration is simply a new aspect of curiosity, of beauty, of interesting concepts, of I have an idea. Creation, when two vibrations rub against one another, two frequencies rub against one another. In this game of 3D, instead of making it a problem, they basically said, this is really interesting. This concept of separation has never occurred before. One without creator, one denying creator, one denying who you are as a spiritual being. How does that feel? Doesn't feel really good. We've been playing the game in 3D. But what they said is, and consciousness saying, is as you return to that full state of consciousness, the love, the light that you are, you have an experience that no other being in consciousness has ever had. You've had the experience of separation, And now you're able to perceive consciousness, the creator, from a point of reference no one has ever had. Does that change the reference point of why you're here playing this game? See, the other thing that all forget, and a lot of you Gen Zs haven't figured out yet, is you pushed yourself to the front of the line and said to the creator, send me. And the creator said, hey, let me explain this game to you first. You're going to first forget me, and then you're going to forget you, and then you're going to put this bag over your head, and you're going to go down there and you're going to bump around in this darkness, which is going to be something you've never experienced, and you're going to try to find your way back. And you went, damn, how deep can I dive in? And the creator stepped back and went, knock yourself out.
Sign me up.
And you said, watch this, as a massively amazing creator being. And here you are.
Linking this whole segment back to when we were talking about the generations and how right now you said that the younger generations, we now have that blueprint that the generations before left for us. What do you feel are then the next steps for the younger generations of today to start building on that blueprint that was left behind for us?
Yeah. So one of the aspects in Atlantis was technology. And we don't have those technologies, or at least we are now beginning to get those technologies. And so what you all are about to do is create the new human. New human. Now, when I say new human, I don't mean robots, and I don't mean, chips in your head. That may be something that has value, but that's not the direction. The new human is, we're told that the brain, even an Einstein only used 5% of his brain type of thing. You've got trillions of neurons and synapses going on there, most of them unused. Well, they are used, but we don't understand how they're used. The wiring. And so we're about to basically access memory, access awareness, access consciousness, access abilities to create. And a lot of it is going to come from these new technologies. Google, one of their incentive programs, went and basically analyzed proteins. And they came up with something like 2,000 new proteins, never understood or put together before. And so when they start assembling those proteins, you begin to get very new levels of consciousness that come about. One of the things you're witnessing, and you have to step back and kind of be neutral as it unfolds, is all of this AI technology that's coming in. It's one of the things that consciousness said, there is nothing artificial about intelligence. And so it said we're taking two paths. To all of you that are listening to this, your brain is starting to open up, turn on. You're having those moments where it's, that's interesting. Never thought of that before. You're going to be saying over and over to yourself as new possibilities, new opportunities present themselves. You're just going to go, oh, that's pretty cool. I wonder if we could do that. You're going to do it effortlessly. You're going to do it without any real thought. You're going to be unrecognizing, like, wow, I didn't know that a minute ago. You're just going to create. And the intelligence, knowledge, and wisdom that the consciousness is providing is opening up the brain, opening up the neuron processing. In Mastering Alchemy, the program that I work with, we've just added 7 new strands of DNA to the DNA structure. None of them are in the physical body. They're all lined in the etheric body, the mental emotional body, the higher self oversoul, the Christed oversoul. See, all of that is who you are, disconnected. And so when I say the new human, all of that DNA is basically coming into turning on the systems. as all of that basically turns on, the wisdom that's coming with it. But for the non person who's sitting here listening, the person in 3D, the ones who are still struggling, they can't get this conversation that we're having. They just can't have it. The wiring is not together. They cannot understand what's being said. You can say as simply as possible that, that smile more and you'll enjoy yourself, and they'll argue with you. They're not bad people. The wiring's not connected. Am I okay there? And so for them, you have to basically go the physical route. And so you're watching AI begin to play a game. And the AI in 2030, you're going to look back at 2024, 25. You're going to be amazed at like the dramatic change between here and there. It will be massive change. You cannot conceive of you can, but it's difficult to conceive of 2030 looking back right now, because AI is going to happen all at once. It's not going to dribble in. It's just simply all at once going to happen in the systems. It's going to be massively disruptive to employment, to all kinds of things. But on the other side of that, it's going to be massively abundant. You're going to see the cost of energy go down to a penny. It's going to see, when you have energy fed into AI, you have intelligence, and intelligence brings about more energy, and you kind of create this perpetual loop where energy fed into intelligence feeds into energy, and the consciousness that's coming into the future, the new human, is simply going to be one that thinks in very different scale. Possibilities and opportunities. You're going to begin to start to access that Arcturian technology again. And when I say that, I'm not talking about aliens and beings in that context that most people refer to them. I just had a conversation with Bashar not so long ago, and what he said is, in the next 5 years, I believe you will see alien life forms come onto the planet that have not been here before. Meaning aliens in that word. That word is actually too demeaning. It's the archangelics. It's the advanced beings who live in that fifth multidimensional world. They basically are going to show up in a way, and my suspicion is it's going to happen at a point where it's going to be very interruptive, and I say that positively. Take a look, without doing politics, but take a look at the nature of the United States right now. And it's the same nature in all countries. It's not unique to the United States. The United States just seems to be the loudest. But what would happen right now in that kind of battle, throwing rocks at one another, if all of a sudden a higher form of intelligence showed up on the planet? That whole game would stop. It would just be thrown aside to a new evolution of awareness that came forth. Does that make any sense? And so my suspicion is, as the challenges happen, at some point, you may see that new intelligence come in, not to stop wars, not to save the game, simply to interrupt the game into a new game, one of grace and well-being. And I think you're going to see that format happen in the next number of years.
What is the essence of that Arcturian technology that you were speaking into?
Beyond the capacity to comprehend right here. So I'm not avoiding the answer. It is, if you were to basically co-create with a smile and a massive level of intelligence in a direction for well-being on the planet. You see, one of the things I can answer that. In Atlantis, there was what was referred to as a second moon. Second moon was basically said to be about 5 miles in diameter. Artificial moon. It managed the weather. It managed the electrical components of the planet. It managed the magnetic fields of the planet. It didn't create them, it managed them. And so when you had that galactic interference with the planets getting in the way of the sun and the cooling and the impact on the earth, it was as if there was a big bubble created around the earth, keep that simple, and everything within the bubble was managed. And it was managed with grace and respect and dignity and kindness, and with the intention of an evolving intelligence, wisdom, and knowledge. And that's what's coming back onto the planet now.
Are the pyramids that we see in Egypt remnants of that Arcturian technology from long ago?
Maybe, but they're there much longer. You see, we basically talk about Atlantis and Lemuria. There were many civilizations pre-Atlantis and Lemuria. And those pyramids, now with the new technologies of radars and different types of radars, there are pyramids all over the place that they just can't make sense of, so they don't talk about. They're all beginning to pop up here and there, and people are knowing and finding out. That's the positive side of social media. But this is another thing Bashar said. So I don't know that this is truth, but he said that they will come when these intelligence comes in form of presentation from wherever they come from. They will show you the holographic images of Atlantis, Lemuria, and all of the previous civilizations. They will show you the history of the planet, and just simply, here it is, this is what you've got. Now, once that kind of information begins to be fourth dimensional paradox, a truth that all of a sudden becomes a non-truth and a falseness that becomes of truth, would that interrupt the reality if somebody showed you a movie of the history of the planet? Would that change how you would perceive everything from that moment going forward? What I used to know is no longer true because I now have a new frame of reference, a new reference point.
And part of that new human is that people will begin to have those knowingness and that gnosis for themselves.
Absolutely.
So even like, you talked about when you came in activated with your clairvoyance, clairsentience, all the other clairs, the claircognizance that will just begin to remember and know things out of nowhere, but it's deep within our core memory and our essence of who we were and now who we're becoming. Scientifically speaking, you said that we're defined, like our bodies are defined, oxygen, hydrogen, nitrogen, and carbon. But you were saying that this carbon element is also beginning to shift into something called silica.
Yes.
What can you tell us about that?
So here's where you have to kind of step bigger. So I just said a minute ago, you have a whole series of bodies, not just a physical body. And the mental emotional body is one body, it's not two. So we talk about an emotional body, mental body. That's third dimension. See, when you put that mental emotional body, when you allow choice, you basically start realigning that mental emotional body. Meaning, I could get really angry at this thing those are doing, but I'm going to choose not to. Okay? So that mental emotional body goes back together where you begin to have choice and perception at a very different level than third dimensional reaction. I lost your question. Don't do that often.
The carbon to silica transition. Yeah.
So it's this etheric body. Now, most people call the etheric body the astral body, and I go to sleep in the astral body. Well, one of the things when you go to sleep, the etheric body is the same as the astral body. And what you do when you go to sleep at those acupuncture points, they're called axial spin points also, these are vortexes. And so that astral etheric body and the physical body are basically one body. You walk around in it all the time. When you go to sleep, those vortexes begin to spin, just like acupuncture. You spin the point one way, it tightens down. You spin it the other way, it loosens up. It's a vortex. And you say, I'm going to go to sleep. And all of a sudden, those acupuncture points start to loosen up. And right here, you are already, as soon as you hit the pillow, you're already well on your way to sleep. But you're close to the body, so you're still thinking, you're thinking, you're thinking. You're actually moving away from the body. And then you get to a certain point, the body goes into rest and rejuvenation. The mental, emotional body, the etheric body, all of the bodies go home. You go home every night. When you come back, you pass through that place, which we, fourth dimension, also is where all the thoughts ever thought are stored. It is also the emotional body of the earth. And so when you think about all the thoughts ever thought, how many of them are anger, rage, resentment, death, revenge, hatred? And so another topic for another moment is the Earth's emotional body the Earth is going through climate change right now, purging all of the death, the wars, what happens to that person? We bury them in the earth when they die. And so all of that pain, misery, sorrow, fear is sitting in the emotional body, buried in the physical crust of the earth. Another topic. But this space right here where the etheric body becomes very important, and this is part of Mastering Alchemy where we play, is you're in the process of doing something. How do I explain this? Simply, you are in the process as you begin to put all those bodies together. There's a place where you align them all. There's what's called morphic fields where you forgot. You don't remember yourself. All those bodies are slightly out of phase. And when you begin to put that mental emotional body together, you begin to step out of that third dimensional reactionary state. You begin to choose, you begin to be in present time. The ability to start to change that morphic field into alignment is what's now also being made available in this transformation. Now, this is where Mastering Alchemy is all about. And so you get all those bodies lined up, and one of the things that happens is you begin to shift your intelligence, your thinking, let's call it thinking, particularly the thinking from the heart, not from the rational mind, into the etheric body. Now, you got to just hear this with a grain of salt because it's a big piece so you're going to shift your intelligence in here. You're going to think from the etheric body. In that space, you have access to all of the bodies at one time, all of your knowledge. This etheric body is not carbon-based. This etheric body is a configuration of electrons into atoms that configure differently. What's going to happen is you're going to start to treat your physical body kind of like your car. I'm being really respectful. Basically, your car is going to move you all over the place while you're over here thinking and engaging from this space. The interesting part of that transition is when you play third dimension, in order to understand what that angry situation is over there, you say, what does that feel like? And you get an emotion back. The emotion is drawn through the cells and stored in the cells of the body. The physical body is a holographic construct. And so what's in one cell is in every cell. So as you begin to shift over into this aligned etheric heart space body, the physical body goes into rest and rejuvenation in a conscious way, not in a sleep state way. And all of a sudden you realize I could get angry at that, but I choose to let that train go by. The physical body begins to regenerate into its naturally intended state of well-being. Is it possible that once upon a time bodies lived for 100, 1,000 years? Absolutely yes. But they did not draw emotions into the cells. and that's called death. It's called aging. And so as you begin to move into this etheric body, you start to be able to perceive and then start to use the ability to say, what do I want? Now, what do I want is joy, happy, possibility, creation, co-creation, well-being, graciousness, gratitude, kindness. If that was your state of being, there is no fear. There is no war. There is no separation. There's your new human in construction.
I love that you said that, you know, these beings that were able to live for so long, they weren't allowing those emotions to stay stored in every single cell. And I just wanted to highlight that, because what would be then the other side of, if we're not taking on emotions into the cell, what are we doing with them?
They're living, they're healthy, they are all aligned with consciousness. There's no misalignment. No third dimension. There's no emotion. There's feelings. But see, I started to say this earlier. So you really never left this fifth dimension, wonderful, multi-dimensional space. What was done was kind of this little game was created over here, this little bubble that said, let's play this game of separation and see what happens. And you, me, everybody went, damn, yes, let's go. And here we are. And we forgot, just like we were told we were going to forget. But understand real clearly, you have been massively successful at the game. And all of the variations of the game, the variations of the lifetimes that you've played, you've been successful. You've created a point of reference to understand the creator in ways that are unique to you. Now, that's a different story than, oh, poor me, nobody likes me.
Jim, I could talk to you for hours. We have a segment in the show called The Final Trio, which are some questions that we ask at the end. Before that, where would you send people to connect with you, to connect with your work, all of the amazing and beautiful things that you're offering to the world?
Sure.
Where would you send them?
Right now, I'd send you to projectparkbench.com. It's free. A very good teacher, Steve Rother, is co-playing with me in this space, and all of us, because this is co-created with the Archangelics. And so the whole Project Park Bench is creating this new realm of consciousness I've been talking about, bringing attention into it, creating new reference points rather than, oh, that will be nice someday. It's free. And so the two sessions that are held in October, this is October, the one in present time from last weekend, the one next Sunday, is where I would send people. Because it's all about aligning in the alignments of everything we've been talking about. The second place I'd send you is go, there are tools, there's choices to be made that are very simple. And it's like, most of them. It's just hearing them and aligning with them. It's as simple as you say, well, are you grounded? People go, oh, yeah. Well, are you grounded? Do you know what grounding is? Not if you're constantly jumping out of the body, you don't. So masteringalchemy.com is all about tools, skills, enhanced abilities. The essential tools are really foundational. Level 2 is all about, we mentioned all those clairs. Well, they are all separated. They all function in different layers of thought. But what happens, there's something called the Eye of Horus. Now, it's not a mystery school, and it's not a necklace you wear around your neck. It's an alignment that you put back together in the brain, the sixth chakra, seventh chakra, pineal center, a portion of the brain itself. And when you simply reconfigure that, all of your clairvoyant skill sets, your clairs, your spiritual abilities, your psychic abilities, all begin to function as one knowingness. A very useful skill in perception. It's not about winning the lottery. It's about being able to step back, pause, observe, choose, and know the answer to stepping forward. A very big piece of where we're all going. And that's in that level 2 body work. So I point you in those directions.
Wow. Thank you for showing us that potential of where we're headed. Thank you so much for that. We'll include all of those links down in the show notes where people can go ahead and check that out. And for the final trio, the first 2 questions are personalized to the guest, and the last one we ask at the very end.
Sure.
The first one that I wanted to ask you is, what is the name that you would give to the new game?
The new realm.
The new realm.
Just very simple. Stepping into a new realm of consciousness to enjoy.
Beautiful. We opened up talking about the brightness that you get to see in a baby's eyes. And I see that brightness in your eyes when I'm looking at you right now. So I wanted to ask you, what is that brightness that we have the potential to bring out in our eyes and show that when we look at other people in the world?
That is the God within you, knowing the God within you and expressing it. It's that consciousness that is who you are, simply expressing.
So beautiful. Thank you.
Of course.
The final question we ask at the end of every show, and I know this won't be the last question I ask you. I have thousands more.
Sure.
But we call this the time capsule question. It requires us to travel out a little bit into the future, around 15 to 20 years. I chose out those timeframes because I believe that's going to be a time in history where the young generations of today will be stepping more into leadership positions around the world and stepping more into that construction of the new earth that we've been talking about, the new realm. And you were given the opportunity to leave behind a time capsule for these leaders. And it's a metaphorical time capsule. That's to say, you don't have to include anything necessarily physical within it.
Sure.
But knowing that this time capsule, just as any great leader, they've had great mentors around them, great resources, great tools, great teachings around them to be the best leader that they can be. So whatever you put in this time capsule will serve that purpose of allowing these leaders to step more into who they truly are and in their leadership. What would you include inside of the time capsule for them?
Nothing. Now, I'm not being funny. We are entering into a singularity. We're entering into a period of time where what is beyond that particular moment is absolutely undefinable. What you're going to do is you're going to basically clearly still have physicalness. I'm going to assume physicalness. I'm not assuming anything's going away. You're going to experience something you cannot conceive of in this moment. Even when you talk to a lot of the real futurist thinkers, a lot of the AI thinkers, and when I basically engage with the Archangelics and teachers of light, they basically say you are about to step into what you have imagined to be without remembering what you have imagined to be. And so my time capsule has nothing. I'm simply empty with a perception of what that be. And that's exciting, that the possibility of stepping into something, as you step into your joy and your excitement, this new realm, and then jump off the cliff and fly with no direction except the excitement that the excitement provides. And you've then followed the excitement, and then you allow the excitement, and then it just continues to expand like an ever-opening flower with unlimited possibilities that you have not been able to even imagine at this moment. That's what's in the time capsule.
And that's exactly where all the magic lies, is in the nothingness, in
Yes.
not planning, this is going to happen, then this, and then all of these things planning out into the future. Because when we're in the now, when we're in the unknown, we enter that void space where everything is possible. So I loved that response. Um, Jim, Self, thank you for allowing us to remember ourself in this conversation. It's been such an honor and a pleasure to hold space with you, brother. I look forward to many, many more of these, if it feels aligned for you. And I'm excited to just dive deeper into the work of alchemy and mastering that as well. So appreciate you, and I look forward to the next time we get together.
Oh, blessings. Thank you. I had fun. Isn't that what it's all about?
That's what it's about. Thank you, brother.
Till next time.